What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for June 27th, 2022. 3.17 is still in Evo Kadi and not in Wave 1. Roadmap Roundup gave us some really promising looking content that will be coming to that patch, and the Siege of Orison might be some of the best content CIG has ever done. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, pile it into one video, and share my opinions on it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, every day but Monday, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I also have a second channel, SaltEMike 2. You guys can check that out. Thank you so much for the support over there recently. And speaking of support, if you guys want to go the extra mile, you can go ahead and hit that join button and become a channel member. There's, I think, a few tiers similar to Twitch or whatever. I don't take it too seriously. I don't do any member-only videos, but if you do want to go the extra mile, the option is there for you. But let's get into the video. We have quite a bit to go over, and we're going to start out with some patch notes. And I guess we're not really going to discuss any patch notes in detail because 3.17.2 is still under NDA testing. And I'm a member of that NDA, the Evo Kadi test flight. The end of Q2 is approaching, though, and they said we would have 3.17.2 by the end of June. Release, to me, is whatever they feel like works for them in the situation that applies for it. So would 3.17.2 to Wave 1 be considered release to you? It wouldn't be to me, and that's them kind of missing a date yet again. And I think, you know, by the end of this week, we'll get 3.17.2 to Wave 1. They'll pack everything up. ISC packs up, goes on a 3-week hiatus, and they'll consider it out there and good to go. So what did we learn this week? I feel we learned that CIG is more comfortable making sure that a patch is good before they release it, or I guess more polished before they release it, at least to Wave 1. But we also learned that Wave 1 is where a majority of the player base can't play the game unless you pay. And I think this is totally a fine goal for them, and I'm not sure I'm okay with that. It leaves me feeling torn. What do you guys think about the current timeline for release this quarter? And more importantly, what do you think about the Wave 1 mechanic? For roadmap updates, the updates this Wednesday were quite small in terms of numbers, but also really exciting in terms of what's coming in the next patch. So for release view for 3.17.2, we see Colonialism Outpost Derelict versions coming to the patch. This one caught me off guard. I thought this was just going to be Pyro stuff. They literally showed them on SCL kind of right before Invictus, but I just didn't expect them to be coming in 3.17.2, but in terms of new content to check out in this interim patch, it's getting quite beefy, at least for the expectations that I had for it. I thought it was going to be, you know, kind of small. Siege of Orison was going to be the main thing, and now look at it. There's a lot of things to actually check out. AI, their drop ships and reinforcements. This, I just have my usual concerns for. AI in this game has been one of the biggest issues since they've been implemented, basically. The sheer complexity of something like landing on a planet and, you know, reinforcing an area with troops is likely going to come with a ton of issues. But on a more positive note, I'm not sure this day will ever come, but it's another first step. I know it's another one, right? But to really give the planets some life. And this is what could lead to things like fauna and more realistic, lively cities, towns, outposts, and more. I hope this works out well, even if the start will likely be incredibly rough. Next up is asteroid facilities, but this is specifically a progress tracker update. They're placing facilities on asteroids with gameplay both inside and out, and it does really feel like a Pyro thing, but it basically was just added to the progress tracker and was prioritized kind of out of nowhere. Since the asteroid hangar was in game, the fact that I'm into mining and things like that, I always kind of saw myself living on one of these, so this sort of thing in general is just cool for me to see. And then for delays, which we, you know, will obviously be getting more of as time goes on here, are just ships basically. So they removed from the progress tracker the Orion, which whoever expected that, the whole B, the whole D, the whole E, and the Genesis Starliner, which is one that I think a lot of people were really looking forward to, seeing that there was personnel kind of transport missions and things like that. And we started out this week, and this is all we had for video updates, was an ISC, and they started out with a featurette on the derelict reclaimer. And the first thing I wanted to share with you are the major changes outside of new art, because they talked a ton about that are coming to these locations.
For us designers, a lot of opportunity to make the location more FPS friendly with cover, more like mission friendly, so we can add stuff on top of that.
As we mentioned earlier in roadmap updates, NPCs on the ground are big, and I'm more curious about what they do aside from bunker mission type content at these locations. And yeah, I think that is very NPC dependent. So what kind of NPCs are going to be there?
So when you will arrive there, you will feel then some people living there since a long time. That's going to give you a feeling that all that place around is just kind of habitated by some people. The mission we're going to do on those ships, if it's a hostile mission, we're going to have some kind of faction there. It's living there, we'll just take control of the ship. And it's not a hostile mission, there's going to be a different kind of faction.
Now this I do find interesting. We obviously know if you're doing a pirate mission, certain factions are going to be taking over those areas, like Ninetales, right? But I wonder what kind of non-hostile missions we'll have, what the NPCs will be doing. Will we interact with them? If we do, how so? I think that's pretty cool. Then they moved on to the next dynamic event, Siege of Orison. And in case you didn't know, they do share what it is here.
Siege of Orison is an event where we take away all of your most overpowered toys, which are your ships. You actually have to use your reactions and your guns and your teammates to hopefully survive this perilous encounter.
We wanted to do what for FPS combat we did for ship combat with Xenothreat, push it to its extremes. So without spoiling the event, the Siege of Orison is a dynamic event which takes place around Orison on some floating platforms owned by Crusader, and we shuttle players in to help out Crusader take back their islands.
I have personally really enjoyed the out of ship content in Star Citizen more recently, and that's what kind of has me hyped about this event. Elliot stated at the start they're basically removing the ability for ships to be a part of the event and a part of the FPS experience here, and that is a must needed situation for these scenarios, because having a ship pointed nose down just firing at players at the ground is just a really weird power dynamic and honestly just isn't fun. And then the next comment is what I really like most about the event.
A lot of our missions do a lot of hand-holding where we mark everything for the player, and they can sort of disengage to a level and just like walk to a marker and presume the rest of it. This one I wanted to kind of go, right, here's no markers, now think and try figure it out for yourself.
No hand-holding. I'm sorry, but the current Star Citizen experience just does feel like we're being babied a little bit. I think it's more because the game is quite broken and has a lot of issues, but this just makes the whole event feel immersive when you don't have markers like that, and it's just, I think it's going to be a lot better. Next up, since this is basically Xenothreat on the ground, will we have issues with other players wanting to break up the event and PvP?
The event is primarily a PvE mission. There are systems in place to discourage PvP.
It's not something we protect against because we want the players to protect themselves from it. We're not discouraging it, but we're not actively supporting it yet.
All right, they're a little vague here, but basically the area will be a monitored zone. So if people PvP, they'll get bounties and have the God marker on them. I also think that FPS is way more balanced in terms of skill gap from ship combat. So, like most ship combat pilots that are really good are just going to destroy you if you're decent. If you're really bad, an average pilot, you have no chance against, right? So in this scenario, I think there's way more balance to the skill and situations like that. So if somebody does want to break up the event and be kind of a pain, that there are way more means of suppressing that than in any sort of ship combat scenario. And starting out, we have a sneak peek. It's a trophy case. The last time I saw these in action, we had mainly the hangar module and Arena Commander. What do you think they're implying here? Do you think it's a tease for personal hangers for the PU? I feel like that's way too early. What do you guys think about this one? And then we had some dev responses about specific things, starting out with the Redeemer. Simple stuff here. The community member showed himself dominating a Redeemer with a light fighter, and Yogi came and responded that some of the issues here are bugs. The main thing being some parts that are on the ship or some components start with 1 HP, and splash damage will really destroy these, which the original poster used. He also touched on some functionality loss of the ship. One of the turrets should be slaved, and he's going to look into that. Then desynced hitboxes. So he talked a little bit more about this from another post, which is going to be in testing in 3.17.2, but they're not comfortable implementing because they think it's going to cause a lot of issues with stability and other things. So we're more expecting to see that around 3.18, where they can have it, you know, sort of planned out, fixed, and not be as destructive to the actual player base. Then he also touched on the Asperia blade. This one seems pretty simple, that they want to bring the blade up to the stat line of the Gladius, and they changed plasma ammo to no longer have distortion damage. And yeah, I guess until they rework that type, specifically distortion or plasma, I think are both going to have their be looked into. And then some just minor health adjustments. Do you think we'll see this ship in PvP in the near future? Maybe, who knows? And the next sub-flare is bobbleheads. This is not my cup of tea at all, especially when they're just sort of a random meh armor that we already have in game. Maybe if it was like the unique Hurston security armor or something that people go after, or some subscriber armor, something like that, then maybe it would hit harder. I don't know. And then lastly for today, they posted more words about the message that the Banu sent out to help decipher it, and it's been completed. So link will be in the description for the completed message. But yeah, guys, that'll do it for this week. I really do appreciate you guys coming and hanging out. It's been really fun, and it's been really enjoyable making YouTube videos lately. So I just want to say thank you to all you guys that have, liked the video and supported it and watched and everything. And it's been really, really, really great. And I've been putting a lot more onus on this YouTube channel, and as well as SaltEMike too, to try to do more and have more fun here. So thank you so much for watching. As always, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe for more weeks in review, leave a comment down below on anything we talked about today, and we'll see you guys next week.